The National Assembly held its valedictory service on Wednesday as the former Speaker of the House of Representatives and newly appointed Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, bowed out of the legislature after decades of his presence. The service also marked an end to the 9th Assembly and the welcoming of the much-awaited 10th Assembly. Many Nigerians criticized the last legislature for being too close to the executive, but members insisted that it's arguably the best performing legislature in Nigeria's democratic history. With the leadership of the new assembly yet to be constituted, it's beginning with some peculiar yet popular challenges, and the coming days will shed more light on the issues ahead. Now, joining me tonight on Politics HQ, I have Honorable Babajide Obanikoro, a member of the 9th Assembly representing Eti-Osa Federal Constituency in Lagos. I also have the pleasure of having Honorable Shamsuddin Dambaza, member of the 9th Assembly representing Sumaila Takai Federal Constituency in Kano State. Welcome to you, distinguished honorables. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and talking to us on Politics HQ.
Thank you very much, Mila.
Now, I'd like to start with Honorable Dambaza. As a member of the 9th National Assembly, how would you personally evaluate the overall performance of the House of Representatives during this session? What do you believe were the major accomplishments of the 9th National Assembly?
Thank you very much, Gbenga. The 9th Assembly came in with a myriad of problems and challenges that were being faced because of the tensions between the executive and the legislative arm of government, between the 8th Assembly and the President Buhari administration between 2015 and 2019. And so because of that, when we came on board, there was this agenda of synergy and cohesion between the legislative arm and the executive in order to move things forward in the country. And because of that, we were able to achieve monumental bills that haven't been able to be passed for decades, especially when we look at the PIA or we look at the Electoral Act, amongst other bills that were able to be passed within this period. And this opened a lot of opportunities as far as the economy goes and as far as leadership politically, especially for people within our age bracket.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dambaza. Now, Honorable Obanikoro, the 9th Assembly has been labeled as a rubber stamp assembly by some Nigerians. How do you respond to this perception? And what actions have you taken to address it and ensure that its assembly exercises its role as an independent and effective legislative body? Do you agree with that tag that, you know, the 9th Assembly was a rubber stamp assembly, that anything the executive brings towards you, the assembly simply approves it?
Well, I have the opinion that those that fabricated the word rubber stamp are mischievous, because the essence of governance is for us to agree, disagree, and agree and move forward. The essence of governance is to make sure that lives and properties are protected. So if the legislative arm of government and the executive arm of government are collaborating to make sure that governance move forward, to make sure that we have progress in our land, I don't see that as rubber stamp. And like my colleague said earlier, we made milestone progress in terms of some of the bills that were passed at the 9th Assembly. The PIB that is now PIA was not lingering for over 10 years in the National Assembly. We were able to pass it that we are enjoying today. The same thing with the custom bill. The same thing with the Police Reform Act. These are bills that have been pending in the House that we've not had headway with. But today, the 9th Assembly, the historic 9th Assembly, let me put it under the leadership of Representative Femi Gbajabiamila, we passed it into law, and Nigerians will enjoy it. And as we speak today, the President also signed the constitutional amendment bill that was in front of him, where it has to do with retirement age and pension. That's what we want in our land, progress. We want.
So I do get your point, Honorable Obanikoro. The fact that you're a different arm of government does not mean you should be antagonistic towards each other, and you're working towards the progress and development of Nigeria. Now, back to you, Honorable Dambazao. We have a new government now. You are both members of the APC, and the current executive in Abuja is also the All Progressive Congress, the ruling party. Now, a lot of people were skeptical when it came to the screening of ministerial nominees. They say, you know, we have square pegs and round holes. So the screening of ministerial nominees without attached portfolios raised concerns among Nigerians. Can you provide insight into the decision-making process behind this approach? How do you ensure that the nominees are well suited and capable of addressing the country's challenges?
Thank you, Gbenga. That is a very critical question. And ironically, we were discussing the same issue with a colleague of mine a few days ago. And it is, okay, we have these nominees and you come and screen them for their pedigree, for their intellectual capacity, for their antecedents, and the potential they have for the future, which is all good. And these are things you can easily evaluate. However, like you rightly pointed out, it is very important to know the portfolios. So you know the line of questioning when you come to screen them at the Senate. So I think, but because this is what the law has allowed for, I wish maybe we would have made an amendment to require that portfolios are assigned to the nominees before they appear in front of the Senate. And there are even more meticulous ways to do these things, where someone suggested that it is even better to create special committees that will go through a rigorous process of screening these nominees to ensure that they have the capacity, the capability, and the experience and the gravitas to hold these offices that they are being nominated for. So I think it is something that esteemed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should look into, assigning the portfolios to the nominees before they appear before the Senate, so that we can have a right trajectory as far as questioning and setting the agenda for the 10th Assembly and for the country as a whole through the executive and the legislature.
So that will be a major development when it comes to, you know, setting the agenda and moving forward. Thank you, Honorable Dambazao. Staying with you, I believe we lost Honorable Obanikoro for a few seconds. We should have him back now. But staying with you, Nigerians are very critical of anything government and politicians in general. So I'm glad we have you both here, and we've given you the right to fair hearing. Now, the purchase of operational vehicles for lawmakers drew criticism due to the high cost and the prevailing economic circumstances in Nigeria. So how do you justify such an expense, considering the pressing issues of poverty, education, healthcare, and that need attention in Nigeria? What's your response?
Well, it brings us back to, if you studied economics, you know there's always going to be a scale of preference. And these are done by priority. So if they are not a necessity, absolutely they will not be done. Now you can imagine a situation where we have this individual from Kaduna that won a House of Reps seat under the Labour Party, who was an Okada rider rather.
Yes.
And all of a sudden he's thrown into Abuja as a legislator, as a representative, as a congressman. And you can imagine the logistical challenges he will face as far as executing his duties, traveling back and forth between Abuja and his constituency, and making the running arounds, because he's not from Abuja, presumably. And he would require these logistics for his personal use in order to deliver and execute his duties efficiently. So I do not see it as a wastage. Can things be done in a different way? Can we say, okay, let's get vehicles, let's patronize Innocent Motors instead?
Exactly. Instead of Prado,
We could
V8.
take that direction instead of taking the money out of the country. Maybe we could look inwards to see how we can have that economic exchange take place within our borders. But absolutely, these vehicles are not a waste. They are needed. The same thing applies for any other parastatal that you would look at, if it's the ministers, the DGs of agencies, or the MDAs. It is obtainable across the board.
Thank you very much for your honesty and your frankness. I mean, we always preach a made in Nigeria, so we'll probably get to a time, because I do know that some of the senior officers in the Nigerian military do use innocent vehicles. They didn't pay us for adverts, just wanted to be pro-Nigeria there. Now, glad to have you back, Honorable Obanikoro.
I apologize and power issues.
It's good to have you back, sir. Now, the introduction of the Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill and the Hate Speech Bill by the Senate, faced significant backlash, and also the House of Reps, the National Assembly. Can you explain the rationale behind these bills and address the concerns raised by the public and the global community regarding freedom of speech and potential abuse of power?
Now, is that to me or?
Yes, that question is directed to you, Honorable Obanikoro. Yes.
As human beings, and as we have shown over time that we need rules and regulation to guide ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to go abroad. And the internet has shown that it's a weapon. Now, how you decide to use it is up to you. It can be a weapon of mass destruction, and it can be a weapon of haven. And for some reason, especially here, and if you go to the US, there are some things that you cannot use on your social handles or online. You get fined or bad. So there is nothing wrong with us in Nigeria trying to also make sure that we curb that environment, to make sure that we don't abuse it. It's a right, but we don't have to abuse it because it's a right. Everything in excess is not good. We have to know how to do things in moderation. Trying to make sure we put some rules and regulation in the social media era or internet era is not taking away our voice. It's not taking away our powers. It's not taking away our rights. It's just making sure, just like you are on the road, when you're driving, it's your car, you used your money to buy it, but you obey the rules and regulation of the road. You respect other road users, just as you go into any public space that you go. And the same thing applies to social media. It is public space whereby other people get to see what you're writing or get to see what you're seeing or what you want them to see. So we have to make sure that that we put some kind of measure to it so that we do not abuse it. Like I said, it can be a weapon of mass destruction. We have seen a situation where people are bringing up videos of 5 years ago from different countries and giving it a different narrative to fit issue of the day.
Sorry to interrupt you, Honorable Obanikoro. I do absolutely agree with your sentiments that, no freedoms are absolute. And it is actually a matter of life and death. We've seen what fake news has done. It's caused the loss of lives. But having acknowledged this sentiment, some critics say, the government passed this bill in order to muzzle opposition and stop dissenting voices. So where do you draw the balance? How do you respond to them?
What you have to understand is that as nobody is in government forever, we are all at some point going to be in government and at the other point not be in government any longer. So there is no way I will say because I'm in government, I want to put up a law, a bill or an act to favor me. Then when I'm out of government, what happens? So no government official sits down to say, okay, let's do this to favor us because no, it's not done. Whatever bill or act or executive that the government is passing out, it is for the betterment of the people. Government officials are not exempted. Like Ibrahim Babajide was once upon a time Minister of Information, no longer the Minister of Information. I was once upon a time member of the House. A few hours ago, I was a member of the House of Representatives. I'm no longer a member of the House. So am I going to say, okay, these laws that were made when I was in the House, let's, reverse it? No. So there is no line to be drawn because there is no line in the first place. These rules and laws that we are passing is to regulate us as a people moving forward. Not we want to believe that they are going to last the test of time, not something of the moment. Because I'm in government for 4 years, let it pay me. No. Even if I'm in government, I have siblings that are not in government. I have parents and friends that are not in government. So we cannot. Government is not personalized. It's
and I believe
it's for everybody.
They were passed in the best interest of Nigerians. Like you said, you will be in government, you will not be in government for life. And you also have family members that are not in government. So in doing these things, you consider them. Thank you, Honorable Obanikoro. Now, Honorable Dambazao, ensuring checks and balances is essential in any democracy. Nigeria, as we speak, is highly indebted. The current government came in there's so much backlog of loans we have to pay. Now, what measures did the Ninth Assembly take to ensure effective oversight and scrutiny, particularly in terms of foreign loan approvals by the federal government under the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari? How do you address concerns about the impact of these loans on Nigeria and its citizens? And one of the reasons why critics of the Ninth Assembly tagged it rubber stamp is that you approved most of the loan requests that came to the House of Representatives, the National Assembly.
Gbenga. Well, Gbenga, your question is very precise. You see, these loans, taking the loans is not an issue. All countries around the world take loans, all governments rather, take loans to fund their policies, their projects. It's not wrong. And because the president comes with a request for a loan and we approve it, does not make the Ninth Assembly a rubber stamp. Rather, it makes us in line, or we see the vision behind the loan. Now, what is important in taking a loan is the benefits. What is the dollar, for each dollar you spend, what is the economy benefiting from that? That is the most critical thing we need to look at. And when in the future, when we're going into these things, we need to, the economic policies behind the loans are what should be really addressed, not the fact that the loans are being taken or being approved. So for me, I think, like, especially with the new policies now, you can see what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been doing since he came. The removal of the subsidy for one is something that we've needed. It's one of the economic policies that we've needed for the longest. It doesn't make sense for us to be borrowing money to fund subsidy, which then gets exported to the neighboring countries and then leaves Nigerians queuing. And you go over there, they don't have any queues. And so these are the types of things that we should be gearing our minds towards, not whether the loans. I don't think the Ninth Assembly was the rubber stamp. There are many things that were brought to the floor of the House that we challenged vigorously. To take us back to the question that you asked, my brother, Honorable Obanikoro, about the Ninth Assembly bringing acts on
freedom of speech, yes.
The opposition. Now, one thing you have to take into consideration is that on the floor of the House, we have opposition members. And then we have procedures that allow you, even if a bill is passed into law and it becomes an act, you can still do an amendment bill. You can challenge, you can do public hearings. There are so many checks and balances that would prevent any kind of vendetta bill from being passed. So any bill that is passed on the floor of the House has been approved by both the ruling party and the opposition members of the floor and the public, because it must go to public hearing and the doors are long open for everyone to come in. And if you have any submissions, you make them, it's recorded. So I think there's things are being misconstrued. but it's not like that.
Thank you very much for enlightening the general public on the procedures of the National Assembly. Now, just before we go on a break, I would like to direct this question to you both. I'll start with Honorable Obanikoro. Constituency representation is an important aspect of your role as lawmakers. I happen to have been a resident of your constituency for quite some time. We actually lived in the same neighborhood for a while. Now, Honorable Obanikoro, can you highlight some specific initiatives or projects that you've undertaken to address the needs and concerns of your constituents? How do you ensure effective communication and engagement with the people you represent?
Now, let me quickly also add to what my colleague said on the issue of loans. Now, you see, when the final loan comes out, approval comes out, does not mean that there has not been a lot of back and forth in the back room. There has been a lot of meetings that has gone on within the Committee on Finance, Appropriation Committee, and the executive arm of government. They've talked about these loans, they've vetted it, they've decided on how it's going to be, when it's going to be paid back, when, at what time, all that has been decided prior to the approval. It's not like they just bring it and then it's approved. No, it's scrutinized very well before the approval stages. I just wanted to add that to the
thank you.
No, because a lot of people just think that they bring it and then the House approves it. No, a lot of back and forth has gone behind the scenes before that. Now, on the issue of constituency projects, now in Eti-Osa, I was one of the things that we're able to do is that we're able to engage the constituents on a monthly basis. I actually take the time to go out there and attend resident association meetings just to know where the shoe hurts, where they need roads, where they need solar street lights, where they need transformer, where they need school, where they need hospitals. And all these things that I have listed to you, my brother, I've been able to provide them in every nook and corner of Eti-Osa. We've done roads. At least we did about 8 to 7 roads in the 3 years that we had to operate, considering that we had COVID emergency 2020. And even during the COVID too, there are a lot of things that we, gave to the constituents to, cushion the effect of the lockdown. Some we gave cash, some we gave food items, some just needed materials such as hand sanitizers, nose masks, all that we did. And then in some estates, we're able to help them with solar street lights to eliminate dark spots, just to increase safety zones across Eti-Osa. In 2019, when I went around Eti-Osa, we were short of schools. Constituency 2 had more schools than Constituency 1. So you had students traveling from Constituency 1 to Constituency 2 to get educated. So what I have been able to do is facilitate more schools in Constituency 1 to reduce the amount of students that will be traveling to Constituency 2 to get educated. So you study in your environment, stay in your area, you get more time to revise your studies as opposed to spending all the time on the road, going to and to school and back home. And some of the other things that we did also, empowerment. We did a lot of empowerment, especially our petty traders. Some of them we gave equipment to go and better themselves, increase their capital base. Some we gave cash to buy more products, to stock up on their business. And some youths that we trained in different fields, depending on where your trade is. We're able to help some of our youths in that department. And by and large, I'm comfortable with where we have left Eti-Osa, and we believe that we left Eti-Osa in a better space than we met it in 2019. I was able to bridge the gap between all arms of government, from the state to the federal and the community. And I believe that they're enjoying that relationship up till date. So, and what we also like to let people know is that some of these things, I have to go out of my way to go to ministries, agencies to facilitate it, to sing that, hey, this is my melody, I need a tune to it. And some of the agencies obliged me, and that's why we were able to facilitate some of the roads that we facilitated, some of the clinics that we brought to Eti-Osa. And I also have to also talk about some of the emergencies that we attended to. Natural disasters do happen, and sometimes they're man-made. We had a few in Eti-Osa that I ran to NEMA, and they were able to come to our aid by giving us relief materials to cushion the effect of the ozone shortage that happened in Okon-Afa and Okon-Ajah and Okon-Mopo area. And we also had some issues in Takwa Bay area. We're also able to help them through NEMA with food items and what have you. So that's what representation is about, and I believe that I did that within the 3 years that we had to operate, considering total lockdown in 2020. Yes. So, and we're also able to help some people secure jobs. At least I got some people jobs with the Nigerian Railway Corporation, some with PENCOM, some with the GSS. We're able to get some into Navy, and a few other agencies that were employing when I was in office, and slots were given to National Assembly to give to their constituents. I was able to tap into that. So, and I'm happy with what we have done, and I believe that posterity will judge us aright. We will go back to the drawing board and see how to come back and be of assistance to my neighbors in Eti-Osa.
We'll get to that. And your tagline was your good neighbor. That, like you said, posterity will judge you well. I can't get to Honorable Dambazao now. I would ask you that question when we come back from this break. Do stay with us, Politics HQ. We'll be right back after this quick timeout. You're welcome back to Politics HQ at News Central Television, and we're still evaluating the just concluded night assembly, and I have with me two distinguished members of that House of Assembly, the night assembly, Representative Babajide Obanikoro, Honorable Babajide Obanikoro, representing Eti-Osa Federal Constituency in Lagos State, and also Honorable Dambazao, Shamsuddin Dambazao, member of the Night Assembly, representing Sumaila Takai Federal Constituency in Kano State. Now, I want to ask you the same question, Honorable Dambazao, that I posed to Honorable Obanikoro. I said constituency representation is an important part of your responsibilities and duties as a lawmaker. Can you highlight some specific initiatives, projects that you've undertaken to meet the needs of your constituents, needs and concerns of your constituents during your stint as a member of the House of Representatives in the Night Assembly?
Thank you, Gbenga. Coming into government, there was one thing that I observed across the board, is that the main problem of Nigeria is coming from the governors. So when we became members of House of Rep, when I was sworn in, I now realized that I was doing the work of the governor, I was doing the work of the local government chairman. So the problems are replicated across the 774 local governments and the 360 constituencies. And these problems are education. We don't have enough facilities for education. We don't have enough healthcare facilities. We don't have any environments that help economic activity to thrive. And so I focused on these three things. And so in discharging my duties, I renovated and built over 30 schools. Now, the difference is that because my constituency is a very rural area, and my village is like inside the heart of my constituency as well. And so the challenge here was that the people from the past that held the same office would build these schools and these healthcare centers near the highway, the major highway that passes through my constituency, which left those in the hinterland of the constituency without these facilities and amenities. So I took it upon myself that, okay, we're not here to do, in quotes, shine bobo. We're not trying to do, I said, look, we need to really get down and dirty and do the proper work.
Not whitewash.
So we went,
yes.
Yes, not whitewash. Whitewash. And so not to whitewash, we had to go in, and I made sure I put a lot of schools in places that have never had any primary school within my constituency. Big primary schools with 6 classroom blocks, some of them with offices. I also brought this project which takes a road from the Kachako corner down through my village, through my ward, and to Bauchi State. And it is a 6.7 billion naira project because we have a lot of agricultural produce in my constituency, and it was making it very difficult for the farmers to move out their produce. And in the process of going back and forth, because of the roads were bad, we had these indigenous Fulanis from my area, which I'm part Fulani as well, but I'm also Hausa. And they were robbing people at night because the roads were bad. So when you come through where the potholes are and stuff, they would snatch your bike. So this road, we've already gone like about 40% of the way. And so that has doused that issue. And then we have markets along the expressway. And the economic activities could have been better. I remembered my experiences outside of Nigeria, how you would have these rest stops when you travel, if you're on the turnpike or any other country where you live. You would see that there would be rest stops, and these rest stops have a lot of economic activity. So I put these solar street lights at those markets because anybody going to the northeast from the northwest, especially from my area, has to go through my constituency. So I put those street lights to extend economic activity, and that made people to start stopping in my constituency to spend money, to refuel, to eat, to rest, to pray. And that also gave opportunity for my constituents to have long hours of commerce or economic activity. And then I did a lot of empowerment programs. I trained people on how to be barbers, for example, and bought them the UV ray kit, bought them the clippers, and give them money that they could rent shops. If they, like 3 of them combined the money I gave them, they can rent a shop together and then or start doing their farming, their barbering activities. I also engaged, like Honorable Ibrahim Babajide mentioned, went into engaging the youth to give them jobs. Now, the difference, a lot of us do that as well. But what I did in my case was, there are people that don't get opportunities because maybe they are not from any kind of background within the constituency that might be able to help me politically. Maybe their father is not someone that is maybe a party chairman or anything. So I specifically looked for people that are disadvantaged, people that have never had anyone in their family.
No connection.
Worked federal government, no connection, Gbenga. And I won't sit here and say I didn't do connection on, but the ones without connections were more. Yes. I made it a point to get people that are at a disadvantage so that them too can be able to taste the fruits of democracy, so they can be recognized by the government. They can feel like Nigerians as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dabaza. Now back to you, Honorable Obanikoro. The youth population in Nigeria is significant, and their participation in governance is crucial for the country's progress. As we speak, all 3 of us on this panel belong to the same demography. Honorable Shamsuddin Dambaza happened to be my senior in the Nigerian Military School, Zaria, so many years ago. So what efforts have you made as a member of the National Assembly to empower and involve young people in the political process? How do you address the unique challenges and aspirations, Honorable Obanikoro?
Well, like, I believe that political process or being political is a civic right that everybody has to take up as a free will, because that is where we decide the direction at which our country is going. That is where we decide our fate as a people. So it's important that every young Nigerian out there participates in our electioneering exercise. And I started out at the age of 29. If I could engage, in fact, actually before that, because I was part and parcel of 2007 elections, and before I now dabbled into it in 2011. I realized that if you don't want to be rude, or if you don't want to continue complaining, or if you're tired of complaining, you should join the electioneering process. It's not compulsory that we all, set out to be elected. Some of us can be appointed. Some of us can operate at the party level. Some of us can operate at the government level. At whatever level that you decide to operate in, you're part of the process. Your voice is being heard. Your will is being taken into consideration. So it's important. And I preach it to every young man out there that cares to listen. Even if you don't care to listen, as you tell you, it's important that you join a party in your local government, in your ward, whether it's a mainstream party, whether it's an opposition party. If you make sure you're part of it, whether it's a third force, just make sure you're part of it. So that way your voice will be heard, your anger will be felt. It's better than just sitting down there and complaining, or you just, complaining and complaining. Do something about
Educated.
it. It's very important. Yes, you have to be educated. And I'm glad that a lot of, I'm glad about the amount of young people that I also inspired. And I always tell them also that Nigeria as a country, we the young people have been controlling Nigeria for a very long time. Because if you look at all our head of states, I think we have the two oldest head of states that we've had are the prior and the most current are the oldest head of states that we've had. Other ones have been in their 30s and 40s. Those two of them ran into maybe 60s while in office. So it's important that we know that as young Nigerians, we've dictated the pace of our nation, and we don't want to give it up. We have to continue being in that driving seat, to continue driving our state to where we want it to be. Look at all our state governors from 99. Majority of them were in their mid-40s while they were in office. Some were even in their 30s. I think Duke was in his late 30s. Fashola was in his mid-40s, even early 40s. So it's our time. We've been in the driving seat. Let's continue being in the driving seat. Look at all the speakers that have been the Speaker of the Federation. I think our current speaker is the oldest speaker that we've had in the history of the speakership, or at least in the last 4 speakership. And so it's important that we realize, or that we know, that we've been in driving seat and we're not ready to give up that driving seat.
Okay.
And today we have more youths than we've ever had in the history of Nigeria. So more youths have to come out and participate. Like I said, you don't have to be out there that you want to run for office. You can work hard enough either to be a member of the party or get appointed, and we can operate from behind the scene. So I, ask all youths out there, please, it's important that we join any political party. Let's participate in the electioneering exercise so that our will, our desire, our want will always be the outcome of any election.
Thank you, Honorable Obanikoro. Now, as we move towards the end of this conversation, Honorable Dambaza, Nigeria faced and still faces various security challenges, including insurgency, banditry, and communal conflict. How did the Ninth National Assembly work towards addressing these security issues and ensuring the safety and well-being of Nigerians? What legislative actions or policy recommendations did you and your colleague pursue in this regard? And would you say we've seen the needle move towards positivity? Have we made progress in terms of security under the Ninth Assembly?
Well, thank you. Yeah, you see, a lot. I remember when we first resumed. I know, Honorable Jide, maybe you can recall when there was a march on the National Assembly, and the National Assembly was attacked by a group at that time. And yes, some of us put our lives on the line to protect Nigerians from such things by standing up and being a voice for prescription. And further down, there have been over 83 motions just in the House of Reps speaking on one security issue or another throughout our tenure. And if you can recall, the first round call about changing the service chiefs came from within the House. And because people were tired of the redundancy and the lack of progress and the level of advancement that was as far as insecurity. So because of that, our Ninth Assembly has been very active. Now, the executive is saddled with the responsibility of making sure that the instruments of security are used properly, that they play the proper melodies to make sure that the lives and properties of Nigerians are secure. But as far as our side goes, we've done everything as far as oversight, budget approvals to make sure that there was enough funding. I recall in 2022, there was even an open budget for the military, especially for the Ministry of Defense. There was an open budget. They brought what they needed. The president gave them a window to make a list of everything that they required. And the Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, and in tandem with us members of the Ninth Assembly, made sure that that funding got to the military. So the Ninth Assembly has been very monumental in making sure that security is checkmated in Nigeria. However, the challenges are vast, and I believe that with the new government, and when the right hands are put on deck with the right minds and people with the right experience, the rest will be history.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dambaza. Now, as we conclude this interview, I want to direct this question to both of you. So, Honorable Obanikoro, I would appreciate if you can respond in less than a minute, as we're fast approaching the end of our time. Now, looking beyond your role as members of the Ninth Assembly, what are your long-term aspirations for Nigeria? How do you envision to contributing to the country's progress and addressing the diverse needs and aspirations of its citizens beyond your current tenure? Are you looking into seeking elective office in the future? And if you do, in what capacity?
Thank you. Let me quickly add to what my colleague talked about on issue of security. There was no day from 2019 till we left office that a motion was not raised on insecurity from one part of Nigeria or the other, or either under the urgent public importance or under motion. There was every single day there was a motion on the need for security to be tackled in one way or the other all across Nigeria. That's how sensitive security was to us. And as for me, tomorrow, they say tomorrow is pregnant. I want to believe my future is pregnant as well. I'm open to whatever. There are some things I'm working on, and I hope that it yields. But yes, I'm not shying away from elected office yet. I'm still very much going to
very
be
young and agile. Yes.
Yes, I'm still very agile. I'm still able. And whatever capacity that I find myself next, I want to assure Nigerians that I will give it my all. I'll give it my best. I will make sure that I leave my imprints there, that tomorrow, posterity will join me, all right? And like I said, I'm still, going to come back in 2027 to contest for what office, I don't know. But for sure, I will be back.
You have our best wishes. Thank you very much. Now, Honorable Dambaza, what is the future beyond your current tenure? How do you envision contributing to Nigeria's progress and addressing the diverse needs and aspirations of its citizens? Are you looking at political office in the nearest future?
Thank you, Gbenga. Well, if you see, I'm a grassroots politician through and through. I've been a councillor. I was the councillor of my ward at my local government in my local government council and the majority leader of the council. I ran for local government chairman and I lost. And then I ran for House of Reps and won. So I am a grassroots politician. I want to continue serving my country. Either, of course, being a grassroots person means that I have a structure on ground. I have a base that I can work with to run for elected office in any capacity. So I won't say that is out of the window. And if I'm called to serve my country in any capacity, I would be willing. However, what I would like to do would be to serve in a capacity where I am instrumental in coming up with ideas for creating revenue generation for the country. I think it is something that we have neglected largely. And we need to really focus on that. And I have very deep passion for that.
Thank you very much, Honourables Babajide Obanikoro, Member, Ninth Assembly, representing Eti-Osa Federal Constituency, and also Honourable Shamsuddin Dambazao, Member of the Ninth Assembly, representing Sumaila Takai Federal Constituency in Kano State. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both. Thank you very much for your time, and all the best in your future endeavours.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's time for me to give you something to chew on after this quick timeout.